All right, thank you guys so much for being here in our Toxic Load Zoom class. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see so many of you here live. And if you're watching the playback, I'm super excited to see that you want to learn about toxic load. I feel that this is an incredibly important subject, and mostly because a lot of people have no idea what toxic load is. Maybe a lot of you here in this class now have no idea and are curious to find out. And that's what makes it such an important subject. We want to spread the knowledge and make people aware because it's incredibly important, and you're going to see why it's so important throughout this class. So the first thing I like to say every time I talk about this subject, if you don't think that you are affected, just listen to the class. If you think that you might be affected, just listen to the class. Toxic load is the main thing that's contributing to so many issues that we're experimenting in our lives, both big issues and small issues. And you're gonna understand why I say this a little bit later in the class. So let's start with the basics. What is toxic load or toxic burden? You might hear both of those at the same time. Toxic load, toxic burden is the same thing. And how are we being exposed to it? So toxic load refers to the accumulation of toxins and chemicals in our bodies that we ingest in a variety of sources. So including the government, the environment, the food we eat, the water we drink, the air we breathe, our personal care and household products that we bring into our homes that we use on a daily basis. So our bodies have detox organs, which help us flush out all the bad stuff. They almost function like a filter. So for example, our skin, our kidneys, our colon, our liver. But just like, imagine you're pouring a glass of water. You only pour it until the water reaches you don't even wait till it reaches the rim of the glass. But if you keep pouring past that, what's gonna happen? Your glass is gonna overflow and make a big mess. So something very similar happens with our body and toxins. It becomes a burden, an overload that's too much for even our filter organs to get rid of. So as we layer these toxins over and over and over and over in our body starts to react in a form of inflammation. I'm sure we've all heard of that, and we know this word very well, inflammation. So the more we layer, the more the inflammation becomes chronic, and our body is in an instant state of inflammation, which means that we are more predispositioned or susceptible to illness. So our immune system, that defense system that our body naturally has, becomes compromised. It does not work the way that it should. So if we do our own research, like we can literally branch off into so many subjects when we talk about toxic load. And I'll give you that opportunity to do your own little research. But if we research the effects that constant inflammation has on our body, we will see that the results can present themselves differently in each person, because not everyone reacts the same way, but they're typically not in very pleasant ways. So we can start seeing things like hormonal issues, autoimmune issues, extreme body odor, brain fog, feeling sluggish, having problems sleeping, digestive issues, unexplained sudden headaches, weird skin rashes, acne, pain, different pains, aches, depression, sudden things that just pop up and we're just like, what is happening? Like, why is this happening? And I'm sure so many of you here can relate to that. Like suddenly you start feeling this weird thing, or you start seeing this thing in your body happening, and you're just like, why? Like, what's going on? And it can even come down to things like cancer. And toxins in the body have been linked to things as serious as cancer, autism, neurocognitive disorders, mental health issues, autoimmune diseases like arthritis, lupus, et cetera, et cetera. So if you really go into your research, you'll find all these things. So this is why the next question is so important for us to know. Are we carrying this right now? Just because you think that you might not be experiencing those symptoms, like any of the symptoms, like maybe you just heard all of these, you're like, oh, I don't have that, I don't have that, I don't have that. It doesn't mean that you're not being affected. And I think that with everything that's been happening these past couple of years in this world that we're living in, we especially have seen that can be very true. We might not have symptoms, but there's something in our bodies that's happening that's not good. And symptoms usually are the body's warning sign that something is happening. So it's kind of like it's already getting to the point where it's on its way to something more serious. Symptoms is like something's happening. It's like an alert system in our body. So the reality is that our bodies are constantly being exposed to toxins. And as alarming as it may sound, we all have more toxins in our bodies today than in any other time. Like, think about that. Now, in the time that we're living in, we have the most toxins in our bodies than any other time. So I'm going to share a graphic with you guys, and you tell me if you think that you might be having toxic load right now. Let me just share my screen here real quick with you. Oh wait, hold on. I think I gotta open it up first. Yes, okay. Bear with me, guys. I'm trying to do this as smoothly as possible. Here, do you guys see that picture? Do you guys see it? Yes, I've seen the head nods. Okay. So signs your body, I'm sorry, signs your toxic burden or your toxic load can be high, include things like, what do we see here? Muscle aches, exhaustion, having a hard time losing weight, brain fog, we can't think clearly, headaches or unexplained headaches. We can't sleep well. We're irritable. We have all of a sudden these skin problems that we have no idea where they came from. We struggle with body odor. I mean, it's normal to have some body odor, but unbalanced body odor, constipation. We can have sugar cravings, bloating, nasal sinus congestion, so many things. Here's another graphic that I'm going to share with you guys. I'm going to stop that one, share this one. How polluted is your body? Look at all the ways that we're constantly being bombarded, but our bodies are being bombarded. It's crazy, right? We're talking about food, our food. This is something that we do every day. We eat our food, the environment around us that includes exhaust pollution, gas pollution, just what people are putting out in the air, factories and stuff like that. Some things we can't control. And this a lot of that contributes to how polluted our bodies are on the inside. Look at some of the products that you use on a daily basis. You can see some of those inside of this graphic right here. It's talking about fluoride. It's talking about aluminum and parabens in a lot of beauty products. It's talking about insect pesticide. These are things that we use on a daily basis that we might not have even had an idea that we needed to be more aware of the ingredients in them. So do any of these sound familiar with both pictures, right? There could be some of you that are like, oh my gosh, all of them I've had. Some of you are like, oh, a couple. But the fact is, all of us are being affected by toxic load. Maybe some of us more severe than, or some of us are showing it more severely than others, but we're all being affected in a really negative way. So why is it important for us to be so proactive? Like, what do we have to do? Like, how do we make a change? Every single thing that you use inside and on your body, so whether you ingest it or you put it on your body, has an effect. It could be positive, it could be negative. Everything we eat impacts our whole body. Everything we put on our skin gets absorbed into our body like a sponge, and it goes right into our bloodstream, which then travels to all of our organs in our body. And it doesn't affect only us, but it also affects our family and generations beyond. So, and I'm going to give you an example of what I mean by that. So some of us, and me included, because I had this train of thought, and if you guys had this train of thought too in the past, please, like, let's talk about it after the class. I want to hear what you think. But we may fall into the thinking that, well, you know, my parents or my grandparents, we've always done things this way. We've always used that cleaner. In my case, my mom used Pine Sol like nobody's business, Ajax like nobody's business, Fabuloso like nobody's business. That was just something she did. They've always used that. They've always taken these pills. They've always used this other product. Everyone's fine. We're all fine. But let me enlighten you with a small but incredibly mind-blowing fact. If you were to take a blood sample and test it for chemicals, you're going to be extremely surprised at the amount of chemicals that are going to be found in your blood sample. Tests have been made on newborn babies, guys. This fact really made me sad because I'm a mom and I would never want this for my child, but it just highlights how incredibly important it is to know this. Newborn babies have more than 200 industrial chemicals, not natural chemicals, because there's natural chemicals and fake harmful chemicals. More than 200 industrial chemicals and pollutants, including plastics, in their bloodstream at birth. More than 200. Why do you think that is? First, they spend 9 months inside of mom's body. They share her bloodstream supply where there's plenty of time and easy access to accumulate tons of toxins that are present in the mom's body. From the moment they are born, their little bodies are already flooded with toxins. Toxins are being passed through the breast milk after birth. And just think about how far back it goes. Back to the parents, like mom and dad, back to the grandparents, back to the great-grandparents. We're talking about lifetimes of toxic accumulation being passed on from generation to generation. So we are already starting off with the odds against us because of what our parents and great-grandparents were exposed to, and that's being passed down, which is why we're seeing so many issues that people are fighting with now, which is why in the beginning I said that toxin burden was a contributing factor to so much that we're struggling with, including all of the things that we mentioned before, that graphic that we saw before. Doesn't that make sense? Doesn't that make sense to see how it's all connected and how important it is for us to know this? So it's important to know this. It's important you're learning this. It's important to share the knowledge because it starts with us. It can be an overwhelming feeling, but we need to see it as an urgency to take back our power and choose what we welcome into our life and what we welcome into our home. It helps us to be more mindful, more intentional of what we're doing, because it needs to stop somewhere, and a better change has to start somewhere. Like, let us be that start for that better change. So now let's do the last question. How can we reduce the amount of toxin load? Obviously, we can't avoid it 100%. We live in a world we're surrounded by toxins, sadly, surrounded. But there are ways to reduce it significantly. So the best place to start is at home. So we can't control the environment we're in. You know, when we're outside, we're breathing in pollution. We can't do anything about that. But we can control what's inside our home and what we bring in. And we should invest into the quality of life in our home, because that's where we are most of the time, especially now. We're at home most of the time. So we should make our home a safe place to live, because that's where most of our life is spent. That's where our family is. That's where the change has to start. That's where we're going to teach our kids and the next generation to do that change and to see the importance of it. I'm going to share another picture with you guys. This is a picture that I found online that was really nice. Like, it gives like a comparison of almost like a what to ditch and what to switch. Of course, you take what you want from the picture, but it was a good illustration and a nice little starting point. So you see here, it gives you like a dump or dive I like that version of it instead of ditch and switch as a dump or dive. And it talks about food. The first thing that we got to talk about is like food. Try to change your diet. Pick things that are more organic, cleaner, because what you eat is a huge deal. And I didn't know this, but there are so many, and it makes sense. There's so many toxins inside of our food. So if we pick lower quality food, we're gonna get flooded with even more toxins because they use pesticides for their crop that they feed the animals. That makes sense. And just the crops themselves, they use pesticides and probably horrible other things to keep insects away. That's all going into our food. That's all going into our body. And the plants absorb a lot of the chemicals in the air too because of pollution. So, and the animals as well. So that makes sense. So picking better quality food, that's a huge one. Getting rid of different types of household cleaners, products that you use for your everyday use. Getting rid of those that have not so good chemicals in them or not so good ingredients in them, switching to cleaner, more organic products. And it gives other examples too of like the type of car, trying to use low emission automobiles, using a water filtration system. I thought that was very interesting because we do drink a lot of toxins in our water too if it's not filtered. So investing in a filter system is a really good idea too. And dumping makeup, skincare with parabens, products with synthetic colors, excessive use of perfumes, which if you haven't learned about perfumes, one of us is bound to teach you, and dive into more organic, natural makeup without the horrible ingredients. So those are really good practical ways to be able to make that switch. So this is where being proactive and ditching the toxins and switching to cleaner living comes in. Reducing the toxins that we bring into our homes is a huge factor to bringing down the toxic level or the toxic load. And some of us here might be very familiar with what I'm about to say, but I personally have made that transition slowly because like I said before, it could be a little overwhelming, but small steps. Don't feel like you have to do this entire like declutter of your whole life. Do it in small, slow steps. I did it slowly, but slowly gets it done. And with the help of Young Living, we a lot of us here love our Young Living products. We trust them because we know that they don't have that garbage that's going to give that's going to load our bodies with toxins. And at the same time, it saves us a lot of money because there's a really great programs like Subscribe to Save that really helps us to save money and be able to make that switch a whole lot better and easier for us. And of course, whoever invited you to this class can absolutely teach you how to do that. We have all the tricks and tips on how to make a slow transition without breaking the bank. And a good place to start is, I would say, the Thieves Household Cleaner. That is one of the most amazing products and the best switches that I have ever made. If you've never heard of it before, please ask the person who either invited you to this class or sent you this class. Ask them about it. It is life-changing. You will not regret it. And those of you who already use Thieves Household Cleaner, you understand me. You know what I'm talking about. So that's like, if I'm going to recommend something to you, that's my one recommendation, Thieves Household Cleaner. And you can also make changes that have nothing to do with Young Living, like we just saw in that graphic. You can start juicing to flush out the toxins. You can be more conscious of the quality of your food. You can drink more water, et cetera, et cetera. All the things that we already know that are good for our overall well-being. Do the things, research, find out how there are other ways that you can reduce the toxic load. And you can start today. You don't have to wait. Again, you don't have to make these big, huge strides. Do it one day at a time, one step at a time. Don't feel overwhelmed. And you got a lot of people that are willing to help you. And check out all the other areas in your life, like examine them. I encourage you guys to be label readers. Find out what's in the back of the label of the stuff that you have at home. Just because it's on the shelf of the store doesn't mean that it's safe for you. Nobody is regulating to make sure that the stuff that's on the shelf of the store is good for you and your family. So you be the gatekeeper of your home. You decide if that product is good enough to be exposed to your family and to you. So become label readers. Look at what's in the back of the labels. Research what each one is and how it can affect your body. And you'll be surprised as to what you find. And this is where you're going to start seeing that shift, the positive shift in the way that you live your life day to day. And I am so excited to be able to see you do that. And yeah, that's those are the things that I wanted to share with you guys today in the class. It wasn't a long class. It was only like 30 minutes, but I am so happy to have been you have given me the chance to share this with you. I hope that it surprised you in a good way. Like, I hope that it gave you information that you were like, whoa, I didn't know that. It's shocking, but in a good way, that it's going to encourage you to want to make a change and to start switching out your things. And don't feel defeated. Like, you can do this. And then, like I said, no one's ever going to be 100% toxic free, 100%, because we live in a world that's toxic loaded. But we do have control what comes in our home, and we do have control of how we can lower that load and live a more well life. All right, girls, that's all I had, and guys, girls and guys, ladies and gents. I am going to stop the recording now. And those of you watching the playback, thank you for being here. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Reach out to the person that sent you this video, and we'll see you in the next one.